Thank you, Ashraf. I think, frankly, Ashraf reflected a lot of the happenings in our yesterday's meetings. We truly see opportunity in the trends in global trade that Ashraf has covered. I would like to touch upon, maybe from 2 or 3 other angles. Relating to what Chris has mentioned about the prospects or the future when envisioning the QIZ in 2000, when signing it in 2004, Ashraf, maybe you overlooked it, but you said something very important. The Israeli Minister of Economy and Industry visited Egypt last month. And I don't think it's something to neglect. I think it symbolizes the tightening of our relationship between Israel and Egypt. I'm sure a lot of this is done with the great work of Ambassador Oron. We were very excited that our minister visited. I think it was one of her first visits outside of Israel, maybe the second or third, and she chose to spend 3 days in Egypt. And it says a lot. And maybe now, Chris, we're in a point that QIZ paved the way, but we expect to see and utilize many other economic channels. Israel exports natural gas to Egypt. That's not a secret anymore. You can read about it, and we hope to increase the trade in more avenues. Israel wants to import more foodstuff and cement from Egypt. The embassy is working closely on that as well. So, on one hand, there are positive trends that supports the QIZ. On the other hand, or maybe in line with this trend, there are other channels, and I think these are very positive happenings that happens. Another thing also relating to Ashraf efforts to bring more small and medium manufacturers into the QIZ. So, and also you mentioned this, Ashraf to my left. So, Dr. Ashraf El-Rabi' and Ashraf. So, you mentioned that the QIZ could include other inputs like services, design, marketing, software, salaries. Yeah. This avenue was not utilized in the 17 years or so that the QIZ is active, and we've been discussing it, and we try to see how it could be realized, in what ways. And we looked at it in a more strategic form, but but also in a practical form. And I would like to give some examples. I also believe that my delegates that will talk later will talk about some of these prospects. So one is investment. When the QIZ was envisioned by the private sector, and it's important to understand it. When it was formed, several investors from Israel invested in Egypt to put textile factories to manufacture textile and industry. Currently, there is only one big company from Israel investing in the QIZ in Egypt in the textile industry. But I hope the global trends will encourage more bilateral investments, by the way, both ways. And for companies who has interest in both sides of the QIZ, apart from the great political bilateral advantage, I think it can take advantage of the QIZ and acknowledging expenses in both sides when forming a product. This is more of a strategic vision. But let's take Ashraf example with small and medium factories in Egypt. And let's think of a designer in Israel who designs bathing suits, dress, clothing. And they come to us, they come to our textile association in Israel, and they tell us that they want to withdraw from China from different reasons. They cannot visit there, prices are higher, and they seek new opportunities. So we can tell them, and we have maybe few dozens of those who sell in $5 or maybe $10 million a year to United States. Maybe we have more than 50 designers like this, I don't know. And I'm sure none of them have ever heard of the QIZ and the benefits that it can have manufacturing in Egypt. And I think if we can matchmake these to the new QIZ small factories, I don't know, by the way, if the Egyptian government gives some grants to new factories. But it can boost their businesses, and they can share costs. And these small factories, I'm sure in Egypt, I'm sure they don't know how to do marketing in the United States, and this could be done by the Israeli company, but because they have their own brand. So it seems maybe not strategic, because maybe it can account to, I don't know, a total of $300 million only. But if we look at the history, so the QIZ was a less than $1 billion business on average. So another $100 or $200 million business is not something to neglect. Actually, you know, I was approached 3 days ago or 4 days ago by one of these designers who had nothing to do with the QIZ. And I said, maybe it's a long shot, but maybe I'll ask her to join to this conference. And actually, she's here. Nava, can you raise your hand, please? Sorry for the public attention, but I had to greet you. And she was so interested that she decided to come to this conference and to meet, get to know the QIZ, maybe meet some manufacturers, maybe the big ones, but later on some smaller manufacturers. And it was not really discussed in this example. It's not what we do in the QIZ committee only, but I think it's a prospect. I have some more things to say, but I'll stop here.